Howdy, Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome to a special Saturday morning NFL playoff kickoff edition of CKL. Thank you so much for joining us and for watching. If you haven't clicked like and subscribe yet, do that for us now. We'd appreciate it. Tell a friend, tell a family member, help spread the word. Fellas, how are we doing today, Nick?
I'm doing great, man. I'm ready for some playoff football. Some team seasons are going to end. Some people are going to advance. We're going to find out who the Chiefs are going to play. I'm excited. How are you, Bo?
I am ready for some stress-free football. I don't have to yell at the TV once today, so I am good.
Yep, no stress for Chiefs Kingdom except for waiting for the games to play out and see who we're going to play next week.
Exactly.
At Arrowhead Stadium in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. Those games are getting ready to kick off here in a little bit. I believe Seahawks-Niners is the first game to kick off underway. There's been a interesting rule change that everybody is aware of that is taking effect with the overtime and the playoffs. So we have dubbed that the 13-second rule, obviously referring back to the blown lead by the Buffalo Bills in last year's AFC divisional round game against the Chiefs, where they blew the lead and the Chiefs got the ball in overtime and scored a touchdown and won the game. So, of course, we had to have a rule change. Both teams get to possess the ball. If the first team to possess the ball scores a touchdown, the second team still gets a chance to tie or win, which is something we'll get to. It'd be interesting to go for two maybe in that situation. If the second team in this scenario, the next team to score, obviously wins the game. It goes to sudden death after both teams have had a possession. Unless it's the Bills, in which case the rules are subject to change again. You never know. Never know. We'll just have to play out and see what happens.
You never know.
It's it was a rule change that was discussed after we lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, but everybody told us play better defense, and then it happens to the Bills, and we got to have a rule change. So, but that's old stuff. We're not going to live in the past. It does bring up some interesting strategy though with the overtime, because before you win the coin toss, you want to take the ball because you could end it with a touchdown. Now both teams get the ball. What do you guys think? There's been a lot of debate on social media and on sports talk about should you kick now or should you still try to receive the ball? Nick, what do you think?
I'm still in favor of receiving the ball. I think that if you get the ball first, you control your destiny the most and you put pressure on the other team. So, there's a lot of scenarios that we'll discuss here in a minute, but I still am in favor of you get to possess the ball first, and that gives you the most advantage.
Bo, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree, especially with the way the Chiefs opening drives have been this year, and not only just the first quarter, but their opening drives in overtime have been just tremendous, even going back to previous seasons. So for the Chiefs, I would say take the ball, get kind of control your own destiny at that point.
Right. The crowd that says kick the ball, they will argue that if you kick the ball off, then when you get the ball on offense for the second possession, that you know what you need at that point to win or tie or continue the game. If the other team scores a touchdown and you know you got to get a touchdown, then you're not going to kick a field goal. You don't have to worry about that. That eliminates that whole decision of, do we kick a field goal here? You can go for it on fourth down knowing that you need to get the touchdown. There's also the mindset or the thought process that if you need a touchdown, you could go for two if the other team went for one. I am in the camp of take the ball, receive if you win the coin toss still, because ultimately, to me, if you need to score twice in overtime to win the game now, I want offensive possessions before the other team. And if you take the ball, you get two offensive possessions before the other team. To me, that's key. The 2-point thing is interesting, though, Nick. Let's say the Chiefs get the ball in overtime. They win the coin toss. They go down, they score a touchdown. Should they go for two, knowing that if they kick the extra point, the other team's getting the ball, they could go down, score a touchdown, and go for two to end the game? What do you think, Nick?
I still say you go for the extra point, because then what you're doing is you're essentially forcing the other team to score 2 touchdowns to win, right? So we know that the statistics on 2-point conversions, they're not awful, but they're hover right around 50% for most teams. So what you're doing is you're saying, okay, you got to score 2 touchdowns to beat us, or you got to kick an extra point, in which case all we have to do is go down and get in field goal range to win the game.
All right. Bo, what do you think? Chiefs, they get the ball, score a touchdown. Should they kick the extra point or go for 2?
I'm of the opinion they go for the extra point, man. The go for 2 is just, I know it's a 50-50 grab, but man, that's just, you're leaving yourself wide open if you don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, with the Chiefs, dude, the way Patrick Mahomes plays, I don't necessarily know that you want to go out there like you need a touchdown on this drive, right? I'd rather have them go out, score, and put that threat in the opposing team's mindset. That's like, oh man, we have to score a touchdown, which isn't an easy order in the NFL. Like that's really hard to do. So I mean, knowing you have to get a touchdown versus just going down and scoring a touchdown, and making the other team have to score is, I think, the favorable position to take.
Right. And if you score the touchdown first on the first possession, you're forcing the other team to go down and score a touchdown, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not like going for 2 really adds much benefit at that point, because they got to get a touchdown anyway. So they're not going to kick a field goal. It's not like you're really changing their mindset all that much. All you're doing is forcing them to go for 2 if they do get a touchdown. Let's go to the other side of the coin. Let's say the Chiefs are in an overtime game. The other team wins the coin toss, takes the ball. They score a touchdown. They score a touchdown first. Chiefs get the ball second, their first possession, second possession overall of overtime. You go down and you score a touchdown. Should you go for 2 then? Because at that point, you're going to be kicking the ball off to them either way. If you kick the extra point and tie it, they get the ball at sudden death at that point. All they need is a field goal. What do you think, Bo?
Like that would have to be more like, how's the game played out? Like, definitely situational for me, right? Like, is this our last opportunity? How's our offense been going? Can Jet get his, what would it be, like 10th, 11th catch in a row? Like, there would just be so many things. I mean, if the game's on the line, you got to go for it. You got to go for it. I mean, what are you going to do? Just tie it and keep going on forever and ever? At a certain point, I think some teams might have to risk it. That's a good question, though, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Put that in the decision of Andy Reid, thankfully.
Right. Nick?
Yeah, I look at it from percentages, and the reason they changed the rule was because teams would go down 80% of the time, kick field goal and win. So that's why they made the first possession field goal not a sudden death, situation. So if you look at, I've got a 20% chance of winning if I kick the ball off, versus I have a 50% chance of getting a 2-point conversion. The percentages, tilt in your favor. Plus, that your defense didn't stop the team already in overtime one time, right? So you have that data saying we already gave up a touchdown. So I don't know. I just feel like the smart move to me would be to go for 2 in that situation and just put the game on your team. You control your destiny. You're not, hoping that your defense can get a stop.
Yeah.
But, it's going to put a pressure on that coach if they don't get it and their season's over. I mean, that's a hell of a gamble, right?
Yeah, and then it puts the whole topic of, well, the coach didn't trust his defense. How does that go over with the defensive coordinator and head coach and the players on the team? This is no slight to the Chiefs defense. I'm going for 2. I want to put the game in Patrick Mahomes and the offense's hands to end it rather than the defense. Again, the Chiefs are an offensive-minded team with a coach, and when you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes, give me a chance at 2 yards to win the game rather than kicking it back off and now it's in sudden death. They get in field goal range. You're talking about they take a touchback to the 25. They got to get to the 40. That's what, 3 first downs you give up, and you could be going home. So brings up a lot of interesting strategy that wasn't in play before. I wonder how much time teams have spent going over all these different scenarios. I'm sure they've come up with scenarios that we haven't even discussed or thought of. Is just your fans watching the games on TV. But another thing that's interesting about this rule change to me is the idea of fairness. was it fair that the Bills didn't get the ball? No, maybe not. But is it fair that one team gets 2 possessions possibly and the other only gets 1? I mean, you could keep going on this idea of making it fair. You're never going to make it fair. That's why you hear a lot of teams, you hear players and coaches talk about this a lot too, say, that's why you don't even worry about overtime. You go win the game in regulation, and then you don't put it up for things like coin tosses. What do you think, Bo? Does it make it that much fair, really, that one team now can get one more possession than the other? Oh, well, we didn't get the ball. Well, we didn't get the ball twice. The other team got the ball twice. We only got it once. What do you think?
Well, just taking the idea of fairness into account, yeah, it's a little bit more fair because the previous system just had whoever, like Nick was pointing out, whoever won the coin toss generally had like a 70-80% chance of winning, right? And so, like, you kind of hate to see games boil down to that. But at the other end, right, like, where are we going to stop with this? Like, we can just keep going. We can have games play forever, or we can just hand out, like, oh, you guys both did well trophies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes. Every time the NFL implements a rule, there's always plays or situations that will test that rule to its boundaries. So it'll be interesting to see how this one holds up in the long term. What about you, Nick? What's your take on all this fairness?
I still think that you're giving an advantage to the team that wins the coin toss either way, right? So you're never going to make it absolutely fair. And what's fair is you had 60 minutes to prove. So if it comes down to a lower percentage chance on a coin flip, you should look at the other parts of the game where you failed, to be honest. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. The other side of it is stop the team from getting a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
That you've got to be able to stop a team from getting it in the end zone to save your season if you want to be a team that is going to go on and win the Super Bowl. That's the way I look at it. The Bengals did it last year against the Chiefs. They got to stop, right? So, I see that. They're probably looking at the fact that I think that since they changed the rule, that there's been 12 games, and I think 10 of them were won by the team that won the coin toss. So it does tilt heavily in the favor of the team that wins the coin toss, but I don't foresee that really changing all that much. Would we have felt that much better about the Chiefs-Bills game last year had the Chiefs gone down and scored a touchdown, the Bills went down and scored a touchdown, and then the Chiefs went and kicked a field goal? I mean, would we have really felt that different about that game?
No.
Or I don't know. They're trying to manipulate it to make it more fair, but I just don't think it's a situation where you're ever gonna get total equity there.
No, and I've always thought it was odd too that you talk about having home field advantage, but then you get to overtime and the opponent gets to choose heads or tails. That I understand that's being courteous or whatever to the visiting team, but I've always thought that was strange that the visiting team gets to pick, choose heads or tails for overtime. The home team maybe should be the ones. I mean, you get home field advantage. Maybe you should get the coin toss selection too, but who knows? It's an interesting thought. Pretty cool. The NFL kicks off playoffs here pretty soon. Seahawks, Niners, I think, are the first game. It's going to be fun. We're going to get to find out who the Chiefs play. But again, like Bo said, nice stress-free weekend of football, playoff football for Chiefs Kingdom. We'll be back live Wednesday evening at 7, like always. We'll know who the Chiefs' opponent is. We'll break down that game, and maybe we'll have some overtime coin toss games, decisions that we've been talking about, kick, receive. Maybe we'll get a chance to see how this whole thing plays out. So thanks again for watching. And if you haven't clicked like or subscribe, do that for us now. We'd appreciate it. And let's go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
All right, let's go Chiefs.